Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Golden Arrow Red Tea session. By the end of this session, you're going to know more about red tea coming from Fujian than you know today, particularly about this varietal. You're going to know a lot more. You're going to end up being shocked at this varietal for some special reasons that we'll talk about during the session. And in general, we're going to just keep moving the scope of your knowledge and understanding, in this case, of red tea forward. So before we start, let's talk about a few things that are outside of what we're going to really focus on this morning. Thank you to all of you who've re-upped your memberships. Really, really appreciate that. We're going to have a great year this upcoming year. That's the first thing. Second thing, I wanted to talk about why is it that this shop ends up being so special? What is it we're doing that almost nobody else is doing? And how does that reflect in your experience? So let's talk about that in a minute. People bring us stuff all the time. They bring us teas to taste. They bring us pots to look at. They bring us ceramics to look at. They ask us all sorts of questions about the tea business in general. And these are things that, because of our direct experience, we're able to give direct answers. So you bring us something, anybody brings us anything about a tea. So, for example, we had a stranger come in and they actually had tea with them and they wanted to know whether it was any good. So we looked at it, it was green tea, and took us a very short time to ascertain this isn't what it's advertised and it's probably not that good. And so we were able to do that. But what does that rely on? It relies on all the interchanges we've had over the many years we've been in the tea business with the farmers, with the agricultural scientists, with people in the tea elite. This experience is accumulated, so we're able to put together the pieces very quickly. This is in every aspect that we touch. And so, for example, somebody this week also brought us a pot that their family, they'd inherited. And so we took a look at that and they said, oh, it's by this famous person. So they actually had some piece of information which indicated that it might be a famous person. So we took a look at it. And we also ask a few questions. Well, what's the provenance of it? In other words, how did your relatives get it? And they talked about them traveling and actually paying, $40 or $50 or whatever it was for the pot. And at first, we were a little flummoxed because when we looked at it and we tested it, and there's certain things we look at when we test. We thought, this probably is a composite pot. But then when they linked it up with a particular name, whose we had heard of in the tea or in the pot making industry, we thought, you know what, this deserves further consideration. And so we did some research and actually found out that this person is still alive, and that one of the interesting things that they've done, and at first, and this is China, and realizing that everywhere, whether it's China or the US or anywhere, has internal information, has internal ways of doing things that consumers sometimes just don't understand, and that people who are approaching the industry have no real good way to understand until you've been in there a long time. Because when we looked up this person's name and their body of work, first off, they had great big library of what their body of work had been. And second off, their pots in the market today are going for $5,000 a piece. And so we're trying to, Xiaobei shows me this, and we're trying to work backwards. Well, how could this person have gotten this, and so forth? And so, as it turns out, this particular artist, because we called back to China this week and said, what's going on? There seems to be a disconnect. Oh, we'll figure this out. Call us back the next evening and says, here's what happened. They sold their name to a shop. And so this shop, when it produces pots, can use their name. But this isn't their body of work. And that's being produced in this particular shop. And the person said to us, you have the proof. You've already looked on the internal internet in China and seen that their stuff is going for thousands of dollars per pot. And they said, whatever you're looking at in terms of a pot, and we had sent the picture, is not what this artist has done. But it did come from the studio that the artist sold their name, the use of their name. They obviously didn't sell their name. They sold the use of their name. And this stuff, from an outsider's perspective, you think, what a ripoff. I thought I was getting a really great deal. I paid X amount of dollars, and this name is associated. So I'm feeling really good because this is a famous name. I like famous, especially when it's attached to pots or tea and so forth. Give me more. Well, there's an asterisk to that, isn't there? So that's some of the stuff that we worked on this week. And I want to share these type of stories with you because, again, when you look at Chinese sites, if you can even gain access to them, there's lots of further questions that you need to ask. And when you can gain access to these sites, most of the times, these sites are not the prime sites where the best of the materials are going. So just more information for you and more information for us as we continue to go deeper and deeper into this journey. Let's turn to Golden Arrow. Golden Arrow, Fujian Province. Where in Fujian Province? The Wuyi Mountains. Where in the Wuyi Mountains? Tumuguan. So, for those of you who are new to these broadcasts, let's help you define. The Wuyi Mountains, well, first off, let's get to Fujian Province. Think Canton Province, and then the immediate province to the north is Fujian Province. And if you're in Fujian Province, it's on the coast. And if you look across the straits, you're able to see Taiwan. So that gives you a sense of where Fujian Province is. It's to the south and to the east in China and on the coast. The Wuyi Mountains is the northernmost part of Fujian Province, and it's to the west compared to the ocean. And it's right on the border with the province that's directly north of Fujian Province. Beautiful World Heritage Site. Within the Wuyi Mountains, there's a place called Tumuguan, which is a village. And in that village in particular is famous for smoky pine. And you may recognize it under another name, Lapsang, Suchong, something like that. It's famous for that. And that's the first of that type of tea that went to Westerners. 1610, that type of tea was sold to the Dutch. And they took it to Indonesia, and then it went to the Netherlands. They didn't sell that type of tea as far as we can tell, to any other foreigners until 1640, when the British bought some, took it back to Britain, and then that became a popular tea within Britain. So why am I talking about smoky pine when I'm supposed to be talking about golden arrow? There is a relationship. What is that relationship? First off, golden arrow comes from the same village area as the tea that creates smoky pine does. The village area is about 3,600 to 4,000 feet above sea level. And in that area, and in fact, in Tumuguan in general, there's about 5,000 acres of tea that are planted. There's something else about this area. Tea that comes from this area. So historically, tea that came from this area wasn't labeled Tumuguan. Oh no, it was labeled in a way that foreigners Romanized it as Bohea, B-O-H-E-A. And this has led to confusion year after year after year. You look in historical documents, Boston Harbor, whatever year that was before the revolution, colonists storm a ship, throw all this tea overboard. They're angry about taxation without representation. And oh yes, those boxes were labeled Bohea. Were they cliff teas? And again, for those of you who are new to the session, cliff teas referring to the teas that come from the oolong teas that come from the Wuyi Mountains. Were they red teas that grew in Tumuguan? Because again, Tumuguan is in the Wuyi Mountains. Was it something else? Nobody's quite sure in the Boston Harbor incident. However, what is clear is when you look at shipping manifests and you see Bohea, yeah, tea's coming from that area. Don't know the style unless there's further notation. The majority of tea in the early years was probably red tea because Fujian Province, in addition to being known for oolong tea, is known for its craft with red tea. And again, the smoky pine being the leading representative of that craft. Even though it's not the best representative, it's the leading representative. Leading because that's what Westerners found easy access to. And because of the Western palate, that's what they gravitated towards. But there are many, many fine, what we call, or what here in the West is called black teas, Chinese call red teas, that are produced in that area. Let me give you some examples. Divine plum, which for those of you who've had it in here, that's absolutely mind-blowing. Radiance, also mind-blowing. What you're going to have today, in its own way, is very unique. Oh, by the way, early spring, which is very, very famous all over China, comes from Tumuguan as well. So long old history of these small varietals. Now you notice I've morphed into small varietals. Have to do that because there is a phrase in Chinese that means something. 争胜小种. Oh yeah, you hear this phrase all the time. What does it really mean? True mountain varietal. And in this case, oh, I said it wrong. True mountain small varietal. And small refers to quantity. So this phrase comes up over and over again. is this strictly related to the Wuyi Mountains? That phrase is, but the sense that you go to big picture areas. Let's talk about Anhui for a minute, Yellow Mountains. Do they have small varietals? And by small, I don't mean the plant is tiny. Less quantity, small volume varietals, all over the place, all over the place. But in the Wuyi Mountains, this this phrase became very important because many adjectives followed it. Actually, I said that wrong, didn't I? Many nouns followed it. So the adjective is this true mountain, small volume, varietal, and then the name of it. And so the one that we're most familiar with in the West is smoky pine, Lapsang Souchong. Everybody assumes that that's the only small varietal that comes out of Tumuguan or the Wuyi Mountains. That's not true. There are many small varietals that come out, and Golden Arrow is one of those. Let's talk about volume. Golden Arrow is about 2,000 pounds. There's about 2,000 pounds worth of Golden Arrow year by year that are produced. In the years that we purchase, we usually purchase about 5% of that. So we get a nice solid chunk. Why are we big purchasers like this? We're big purchasers because it's one of the best deals for this type of tea that we've ever run across. And therefore, we love what this tea brings to the table. It's not, you're not going to find a tea here that say you're drinking Dreamscape, one of those big old heavy, huge cliff teas where you start out with one flavor, 20 seconds later morphs another flavor, you go down 1 or 2 minutes into it, all of a sudden you fall into a dream, and then, 3 minutes in, it's more and more beautiful. Oh no, it's not like that. This one is a little bit more single flavor. It's not completely single flavor, but again, from location, from the quality of how they handle it, from the quality, and by handle, I'm talking about how they do their business in the fields, to the quality of how they actually process it. This is an unbelievable steal from our perspective. And again, when thinking about why in the world do you come to Sophie's, you come because we're looking for that huge value. You come because we're looking for unusual situations, things that you won't really easily be able to find anywhere else. And so this was one of those deals. And we found this stuff 15 years ago, 15 or 16 years ago. And then every few years, we re-up. And we continue. It's like this secret buying opportunity that the rest of the world, because they're distracted. I mean, why wouldn't you be distracted? Golden Arrow, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But wait a minute. Wouldn't you rather be wearing a great red robe? I mean, parading in the streets in your great red robe. You carry a golden arrow, you're just waving this thing around and everybody's thinking, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you wearing a great red robe? Or some other, or why aren't you having one of these other types of really interesting teas? So this is really a lesson today in, if you keep looking And that refers to us in terms of interesting, really high value stuff. Does that mean, does that equate to high price? And the answer is no, it does not. High value, here's the one thing we do know. If something seems to be priced inconsistently, you have to look much harder to make sure that there's not something amiss. This one is so good. It's actually USDA certified organic, in addition to everything else. What farmers actually take the time and expense to go through that process? So a lot of unusual things about this. Now, what I'd like to be able to say is, well, and I can say half of this 100%. Tea Master is brilliant. That half I can say is 100%. You know, I tag along on the coattails. I like to say we were brilliant. We just looked and found this stuff right away. And that would be false. We were helped in those early years by people in the tea elite who said, look, we'll sell you the most expensive stuff you want to buy. That's no problem. You have the money, we'll sell you the tea. But look, we'll also teach you how to look for interesting teas that don't take that type of investment. And they're the ones who turned us on to this, because it's a small crop, especially in the early years, we would have had a hard time finding this. So with help from our friends in the tea industry, we found this. And once we found it, we didn't let go, because this thing is really interesting. All right, now I can say it's really interesting for a long time. Oh, in fact, I've already been saying it's really interesting for a long time, while you've been getting more and more thirsty. Me too. And the tea master has been indicating to me that she's very thirsty. So let's have her demonstrate how to brew this. Let's get to all the secrets of brewing. You know, let's see what secret ingredients she throws in to make sure it tastes really, really good. What potions and spells she uses to get the best out of it. Oh, I think I just got the signal. Hurry up. It is my pleasure to bring forth Biju to demonstrate. She'll demonstrate and then you'll brew afterwards.
Yeah. Hi, 早上好。你们好。Good morning. 我们做红茶 we do red tea. This is the 加进去的是 this is the 金武夷哈。
So you see the tableau. She has way more cups than you should have out here, but she does this in order to dissipate the steam more quickly. Remembering, our water towers are set at a slightly higher temperature, so we go through a little bit more in terms of aerating the water and dissipating the steam. And you can do it when you have more cups. You only need 2 cups. That's really all you need. Does it on a tea tray, which captures the water if there are spills. Heats the cups first using 200-degree water. You can use any temperature between 175 and 200. Actually, 175 and 212. 212 even is okay when you are heating the cups. You're trying not only heat them, but also make sure that there's no residue of anything, no soap stains, nothing to interfere with your enjoyment of the tea.
Awesome.
So this tea, as you saw in the email I sent, is 175-degree brew. However, if you brew it at a number that's lesser, it's going to be really, really great. If you brew it at a number that's more, it's going to be flat. So, and if you brew it right at 175, it's also going to be great. So 175 is the maximum you should be brewing this. Anywhere between 170 and 175 is going to end up being just fine. So the tea master is drawing water. Oh, I know the reason there's so many cups out here. She's going to make 2 cups at one time. You notice, not in a hurry.
This leaf.
Yeah, you're going to dissipate the steam. Yes, I understand that. Aerate the water. So again, you only have to have 2 cups yourself. So here comes the fun part of this, aerating the water. And you notice, not in a hurry, because again, if it's lower than 175, that's to your flavor benefit. Okay, so Tea Master is gonna get the 4 grams and put 4 grams in each cup. So it's heating the tea leaves. I'm gonna shake the tea leaves up. Make sure the heat is distributed. And then she's going to do one more dissipation of the steam, and she's going to actually pour it from the glass beaker, because she can direct the flow more easily, and trying not to pour directly on the leaves. The timer is set for 2 minutes. So
perhaps you could share some information about the photos you sent while Chablis is brewing the other mugs.
I'd be happy to share information about the photos. One of those photos is jungle-like, and that one in particular we wanted to share with you because the bushes grow right under the jungle canopy. And it's not really a jungle, it is a humid forest, but it's not a jungle. And it comes right down to village edge. You really shouldn't be entering that into the jungle, because actually there's lots of snakes and other unpleasantness in that jungle. But just to give you a sense, this isn't fields that are cleared away from the surrounding vegetation. They're planted right up to and slightly under that vegetation. That's one picture. There was a picture of an older lady. She's in her 80s, late 80s. She's one of the pickers. And she's pulling her apron up, and you see that small amount of leaves. For this particular tea, it takes 100,000 of these buds to create a little over a pound. So these were pictures to give you a sense of that. I can't remember what other picture I
There
sent
was
you.
also a picture of a gentleman looking
That's right.
at.
It was good. Yes. Thank you. There is a picture of a gentleman who was handling one of the steps of the tea. And actually, he was applying heat or taking it out of a heated container. So again, just to give you some picture of what local or how local people handle this particular tea. And by the way, there are things about this tea that there are details, I should say, about this tea. They're a little bit different than some of the other teas. And
When you say heated container, was that an oven?
yes, I believe it was an oven.
Good morning.
Good morning. Question?
Do I have a receipt for that?
You don't have a receipt. Just take a picture if you want.
Couldn't
You go
quite,
off today.
couldn't quite make that out. Could you say that again? Okay. If you do have questions, if you can drop them in the chat or unmute yourself again, and we'll try again. But if you were trying to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm afraid I just couldn't quite hear what you were saying. And I hope you try again if you have any questions or comments on the tea, since we will enter the quality arena after this first demonstration by John.
All right, so we've separated the tea leaves from the tea. This is the color that yours should look like. And we are going to enter the quality arena. So the quality arena is all about making a judgment about mouthfeel, where it's dry in the mouth. It's a judgment about aftertaste. It is also a judgment about energetics. Energetics simply meaning how you physically feel after you are consuming the tea. And this is something that takes time. In other words, for some people, they'll get an immediate read on all of these. For other people, it takes a bit to get a full read. The second go around, you'll focus more on aroma and the actual taste. So let's go ahead and enter. This is 175-degree tea. Therefore, you can take a bigger sip. Okay, as I am taking that sip, I'm making a judgment where in my mouth I'm feeling a dryness, and I am feeling a dryness. I'm also thinking about, is it on the tongue only, or is it roof of the mouth? Where am I getting that? I've swallowed it. I'm thinking what aftertaste I'm getting. I'm thinking a little bit about energetics. So I'm going to take a second sip and focus more on aroma and taste. And I'm going to verify my initial thoughts about this tea. I'm going to look at that color. And now it's your turn to brew.
Have a comment back already. The leaves have a wonderful fruity aroma, almost like plum.
Fruity aroma, almost like plum. Now, one of you who made this comment remembers that Fujian reds tend to have something like this, almost a plumminess, a little bit different than divine plum, but definitely a fruity, so fruity flavor in this. Great catch on that. So you're getting your tableau ready. And you're going to use bag number 3. You notice, not in a hurry. Just very steady. You've heated your cup, you put the tea leaves in, you shake them up. And again, just very steady, nice tea rhythm. You've set 2 minutes on the timer. You're going to add the water, hopefully not directly on the leaves. And you're going to hit that 2-minute timer. And go ahead and brew. So, what else is special about this particular tea? This tea is a combination of tea that was hybridized with wild varietals in this particular area. That is the Tumuguan area. And it produced this incredible tea. And in terms of processing, they use many more steps than ordinary red tea. So reminding ourselves that red tea is basically pick, wither, roll, and then pile. Those are basic processes that every red tea undergoes. After piling, and really what you're doing is you're allowing the tea to oxidize heavily. At the end, you apply heat to reduce the moisture. So I simplified, and in the simplest of situations, that is the process. But in Fujian, they add many other craft steps. Remember, Fujian teas, all Fujian reds that are any good, go through an additional 6 or 7 steps, mostly having to do with shaping, with baking, micro baking, and then resting, micro baking and resting, shaping, micro baking, bunch of other steps to bring out these wonderful flavors. So typically, both because of the cultivars and the terroir, you're going to get some hints of what you're really getting in this one.
By micro baking, do you mean baking for short bursts of time?
Yes, I do. Micro baking, baking in short bursts of time. That's exactly right. Also, in relatively lower heat. All right, so you should have, your timer should have gone off. And now you get to enter the quality arena and tell me what's going on with this tea. And as you're thinking about that, I'll talk a little bit more about the processing steps, particularly with this one. This is all buds, and you could tell that when you looked at the leaves. And you could also tell that by the volume it takes in order to produce this.
First impression, says a participant, is it's so balanced and easy to drink.
Balanced and easy to drink. This is absolutely true. And Fujian reds in general, not only balanced and easy to drink, usually they seduce you to drink quickly. The other thing which is helpful to drinking quickly, particularly as opposed to oolong teas, is the fact that they're done at a lower temperature. And the other thing, and so many newbies make this mistake, they cover the tea when they're brewing. There's always that sense, oh yeah, I gotta cover this. Or if they have a glass teapot, the teapot has a cover. They automatically put it on, which is wrong with these type of teas. So while you're thinking, I'll add one more piece of information. Who was it that led us to this particular tea? This person is very famous within the tea industry, and he and two other scientists were the ones who hybridized early spring. So that gentleman had mentioned to us, hey, here's this terrific value, and it's in this farm, and this thing is USDA certified. This is a good starting place. And again, this was many, many years ago. Yeah.
Participant says it has a round honey sweet scent with a hint of cherry and cider.
Round honey tree scent
Honey
with
sweet.
hint, huh?
Honey sweet scent.
Honey sweet scent, sorry.
Mhm.
Honey tree scent. That would be very
Like honey
interesting.
tree.
Yeah, like the honey tree. Oh my goodness. With
A hint
hints of cherry
and cider.
and cider. Love this description. And let's link it up with all the previous descriptions. Fruity, we've heard plummy. So really what we're hearing is fruits with red outer peels. Apples, cider, cherry. So there's a little bit, not only is there sweetness, but again, with all of, and Christmas in a way, with all of those fruits, a little hint of tanginess as well. So for those of you who have not heard this before, when you go to Tungmuguan, this is a gated village. If you are not a resident, you cannot get in unless a farmer comes down to the gate, which is a big hassle, and takes you up. Because they just don't want tea thieves wandering in the area. That's one of the things they don't want. The other thing is they don't want a bunch of tourists up there just wandering through the area, because that area abuts very dangerous areas of forest. And again, it's not so much that there are tigers and lions in those forests, but there's just a huge amount of venomous snakes in those forests. And they've had the experience of opening up that area before and having fewer people leave than enter. Yes.
Plus, that's good if they're thieves, right?
That's really good if they're thieves.
Okay.
We want more of that. Whoops.
Another participant comment, so smooth, pleasant astringency on the top of my mouth.
So smooth, pleasant astringency on the top of this participant's mouth. Love this comment. It is extremely smooth, easy to drink, and you know it's tea because you have that dryness in your mouth. Yes.
A question, what is the story behind the name given?
The leaves are so uniform. That was the first thing that really caught our attention. And so the arrow part, it refers to the fact that it looks almost arrow-like. That's item number one. The golden part is actually in the original name of the tea. So we put the two together, and you can't just say golden tea from food. Well, you can say anything you want, but at some point, it's not really easy for consumers to remember, oh, the golden tea from Fujian Province. So this is just part of these hidden gems that exist all over the tea world in China. And even as that world closes tighter and tighter, and mark my words, it is closing tighter and tighter. And what I mean by that is as China becomes more and more wealthy, the competition for this tea becomes more intense. And remembering, again, we're not competing with any vendor here in the US. We're strictly competing with consumers in China because that's where most of this stuff is drunk. They're willing to pay the prices for this stuff. And so when we go in there, we understand we're part of that competitive landscape, not at all part of the landscape here with other tea purveyors. Most other tea purveyors, by the way, just as a side note in relationship to China, have a really hard time getting steady flow of tea, particularly this last 3 or 4 years. And we haven't. We continue to get basically what we want because A, we have the relationships, B, we're willing to pay the money, and C, we're not interested in the low grade tea that typically you see in other tea purveyors of Chinese teas. Most of the teas you're seeing in those shops are basically, although not in every single case, but many of them, let me put it that way, that's a fair way to put it. Many of them are just really low grade teas that don't have that level of competition in China. And in fact, that's the real point here. The lower grade stuff is lower and cheaper because the Chinese population is not focused on that. They're focused on the higher grade stuff.
So this would be competition from within China,
Yeah.
for the tea drinking population within China.
Competition from the tea drinking population in China. That's absolutely true. Unlike here, where I don't know what the percentage is, but it's not a huge percentage of the population is drinking tea. There obviously are tea drinkers in America, but it pales in comparison to China. In fact, let me put it a different way to you. So the tea drinking population in China is greater than the total population in America. And that is what we are competing with.
Wow.
I'll give you a minute more. And then we may end a little early today if there's no more commentary or questions. But before we do end, I want to talk about the next session. The next session is not yet on the website. It should be on the website by tomorrow morning. There was a technical glitch. I thought it was on the website, but then upon further review last night, I discovered it wasn't. But what's in store for you? 3 lovely teas. The first one is Laid Away. This is a fabulous new red tea. The second one is Soothing. Now, who wouldn't want to have a cup of Soothing? Must be a white tea. Indeed it is. So Laid Away, okay, and Soothing. Where do we go after Soothing? You know, we should probably go to heaven after Soothing, right? Get ourselves all relaxed and get some divinity. Oh, you mean something like Divine Plum. Remember, I made reference to Divine Plum a few minutes ago. Divine Plum is absolutely one of the most interesting and best of the red teas from Fujian Province and has been for many years. And it's kind of a secret. You know, it's funny. Just like this is kind of a secret. These teas, which are really good. Well, actually, let's back up. This is a secret even within the Chinese population. Divine Plum is not a secret within the Chinese population. Result is it's more expensive, harder to come by. In some years, I can't get it at all. But it is it's worth every penny. So that's what you have to look forward starting next week with Laid Away. So your responsibilities this week during this hectic period are to stay healthy, enjoy your loved ones around you, and we'll see you next Saturday. You take care now.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.